We begin today on Daf Chov Daled, Amud Beis, towards the bottom, the Mishnah. Zok Heilige Mishnah, Ve'elu hein apsulin, the following are puzzle both to be a judge or to testify, to be Eidim. HaMesachek Bekuvya, one that plays with dice, that's the literal translation that refers to gambling. Va'amalva beribis, a cube, which is, dice. Dice. Va'amalva beribis, somebody that lends money on interest, which is really a ism in Atayra, of course. Someone that plays with having birds fly. We'll see in the Gemara there's two interpretations for this, but the simple translation is, like you said, the racing doves or pigeons. And those that take the produce in Shemitah year, and instead of using it just to eat, as it says in the Pasuk, only lo'achla, you're only allowed to eat, instead they sell and make business from it, which is also an ism in Atayra. Okay, so now the Mefarshim actually say that the reason why the Mishnah is giving this list of these things, that the person is puzzled to be a judge or to be an aid, in the Pasuk it says, as Rashi brings, al toshes rasha aid, that a person that's a rasha, and a rasha refers to someone that's stealing, that he's not allowed to be a witness. And Rashi says if he's not allowed to be a witness, he's definitely not allowed to be a judge in a court. Now, when someone is actually mamish stealing, that's the psul min atayra. So that the Mishnah doesn't even mention. All these cases the Mishnah mentions here are psulim that are only midrabanan. Mesachik bekuvya, as we'll see from the Gemara, is not someone that is actually mamish stealing. Malva beribis is a ism min atayra, but the person thinks to himself that he has the agree. First of all, he's not stealing. It's not mamish stealing, and also the person thinks to himself, well, I have the agreement of the borrower. He agreed to pay interest, so therefore he doesn't see it as something which is wrong. And mafricha yainim is also the races, or as we'll see another pshat in the Gemara, which is not directly stealing. And seichri shvius is also a person that is not mamish stealing, but we can see that this is a person. And the other cases also, these are people that we see that money blinds them, and they do these things to try to make money in not such honest ways. And therefore, midrabanan, so this is the chiddush of our Mishnah, that they're going to be pasul le'edus, or even for judging, for sure for judging. Amar Rab Shimon, regarding the last one that was mentioned there, the Seichre Shvius, so Rab Shimon said, "Betchil on the beginning, they would be referred to as the ones that are gathering for themselves the fruits of Shemitah. Then Misharabu ha'anasin. Then later on, when the anasin, those that came and forced people to do things, Chazru l'kraisan, then their name changed to the name that Mishnah gave it before, which is Seichre Shvius, the ones that are doing business with Shemitah." Okay, we'll wait for the Gemara. The Gemara will explain exactly what Rab Shimon is saying. Now, Rabbi Yehuda said, going back to what was mentioned at the beginning of the Mishnah, Mesachik Bekuvya. So Rabbi Yehuda says, "Hey Messiah, when is the Mesachik Bekuvya, the one that's gambling, when is he going to be pasal eidos? Bezman shein lem umnis elahu. If he doesn't have any other profession besides this, that's what he does. He's busy gambling. But if he has another profession, he gambles as well, but he also has a profession, then ksheidin. Then they're going to be kosher to be edus. Okay, we'll see the Gemara will explain what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. So first the Gemara starts with explaining what does Mesachik Bekuvya mean. What's the problem that is? We know what Mesachik Bekuvya means, someone that plays with dice, someone that is gambling, but what's the reason why he's pasal edus? Mesachik Bekuvya, my kovet. What is it that he's doing that's the reason that he's going to be pasal for edus? Rami Bar Chama says the reason is Mishum the Hava Asmachta. Because this is an example for something that the person over here is saying something, but he really does not mean this seriously. The concept of asmachta is that he's not giving this willingly. He's relying on the fact that he's not going to have to give this. When a person gambles, he's hoping that he's going to be the one that's going to win the gamble. Right? And the fact that he loses, he's not happy to give up any money for this. So in a case where you're playing with someone and then he loses and you take his money, you're not directly stealing. It's not zelim and atayre, but because it's asmachta, the other person did not really want to give his money, so therefore you're taking his money away. Again, it's like zelim because he didn't really want to give it to you. Asmachta lekanya. Asmachta is something that's not kaina. We have this concept in other places. The concept of asmachta is usually in a situation, for example, where you give someone a job, and he says, "I'm going to guarantee you that the job that I'm hired for, I'll get it done. And if I don't get the job done, then I'll pay you $10,000. So he's not really planning on giving $10,000. He's only saying it because he wants to guarantee you, he wants to show you how trustworthy he is, that he's going to get the job done. So what happens if he doesn't get the job done? Does he have to give the $10,000? So the Gemara says, the point of Asmachta Leikanya is that when he says that, he wasn't planning on not getting the job done. So therefore, when he says he'll give that money, he does not have to give that money. So the same thing over here by gambling, that the one that loses is not planning on losing. So therefore, you take his money, it's like Zayla. Rav Sheshes argues on this and he says, no, Kol ki gavne lav asmachtahi. Anything like this, which is gambling, this is not what's called asmachta. So why isn't this called asmachta? Why is this different than the example I just gave regarding a person that promises a certain amount of money if he doesn't get the job done and so on? So Rashi here explains, because in that case, it's totally in your hands. You take upon yourself to do something, and then you say, if I won't get it done, I'll give you this and this amount of money. There, we say that the person is relying on himself, that I'll get it done. So he's not interested in giving any money. But in this case, by gambling, it's not completely in your hands. It's something that you can lose. So the person, when he says that he's ready to give up the money for this, he knows that it's not completely in his hands, and it depends on someone else that he's playing with as well. So in such a case, when he's going into this game, into the gambling, over here, he understands that he could lose, and therefore, when he loses and the money is given up, it's something that he accepted. He understood that could happen. So therefore, in this case, it's not similar to the regular asmachta where we say you're not kaina. That's Rashi's pshat. There's a big arichas here in Taisvus about this, and Taisvus brings another shitta, which is Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam says that the reason why in gambling it's not called asmachta is because the way gambling works is it's a gamble. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Just like when your friend loses and you're winning, you want to be able to get his money. So in that sense, you want it to be serious. So you're also ready for sometimes to lose. And therefore, when you're going to lose, you're also ready that it should be serious. That's what gambling is, between you and your friend. But if it's just you yourself, where you're promising an exorbitant amount of money, if I don't do this and this, over there, it's not about it's not a game. So over there, we say asmachta lekanya. That's Rabbeinu Tam's pshat in this. So according to this, how does Rav Sheshes explain what's the problem with a person that's gambling? The problem over here is lefishein asukim b'yeshuva shalaylam. Person that's gambling is someone that's not living life the way he should. He's not settling the world. He's not making a parnasa and so on. He's just sitting and playing around gambling. So a person that has no sense of responsibility, with the Rabbanon, he's pasaledus, because he doesn't have the value for the money and he just is sitting and wasting his time. So therefore, he can't trust his edus. He can't be a judge. Says the Gemara, "My binai." What's the practical difference between these two reasons? It can be binai. The difference is the Gomar Achriti. If this person, he's gambling, but he also learned the profession, and he does have a job. So if the point is that he's not Isik b'Yeshuva Shalelim, he has no sense of responsibility, he has a job. But if the point is that Asmachta Lekanya and it's Ke'en Gzeila, so even if he has a job, it doesn't matter. But gambling is like stealing. So therefore, he will still be possible for Eidos or for a Dayan. So the Gemara now asks from what it says in the Mishnah, Tnan, or Ditnan, that the Gemara brings a rayat to the pshat of Rav Sheshes. What did Rabbi Yehuda say regarding gambling? Rabbi Yehuda said, Ein Masai, when is Mesach B'Kuvi apostle, Bizman Shein Le'amumnis, if he doesn't have another job? Elohu, just gambling. Avo Yesh Le'amumnis, if he has another job, if he has another profession, Shaloihu, not gambling, then Arezik Sheirim, so they are kosher. So from the Mishnah we clearly see time of the masnisin. The issue is not the fact that gambling is like stealing, but it's the fact that he's not working. He doesn't have a normal job. If he does, then even if he gambles, he's not going to be pasaledus. So kashil Rami Bacham. It's a question of Rami Bacham's pshat. Now, so what would be the simple answer to this? We're quoting Rabbi Yehuda. But so you'll simply say, Pligi Rabbanon, led Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbanon in the Mishnah, they argue on Rabbi Yehuda. And according to them, Mesachik B'Kuvi does mean that Asmachta Lekanya, that it's like Gzeila. But Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Kol Mokum, any time in the Mishnah, Sha'amar Rabbi Yehuda, where Rabbi Yehuda is brought after the Tanakama, and the expression that he uses is a Masai, when is what the Tanakama says apply? Or he uses the term ubameh, he says bameh dvarim amurim. So these expressions, ein ela lefarish, divrei chachamim. He's not coming to argue with the chachamim, with the Tanakama. He's just coming to explain. Rabbi Yochanan says, Eimesai, the expression of Eimesai is lefarish. He's coming to explain. Ubameh, the expression of bameh dvarim amurim lachlik, is coming to argue. But the Kula Alma, but both Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yechanan agree that Eimesai lefarishu. That when Rabbi Yehuda says Eimesai, he's not arguing in the Tanakama. He's coming to explain what the Tanakama says. So if so, over here, what Rabbi Yehuda says, the Tanakama agrees to. So if so, it's a question on Rami Bar Chome's Pshat that says that the issue of gambling is that's Ka'en Gzela. Rabbi Yehuda clearly says that as long as he has another profession, it's okay. Answers the Gemara.
You can argue that the reason why the person works is in order to have money to gamble.
No.
That's what gamblers do. They're addictive.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but Afal Pikain, you can't know that for sure. So if a person, as long as he has a job, then we can't passel him. Okay, so the Gemara says, Gavre Karamis, you're asking a question from Rabbi Shua ben Levi or Rabbi Yechanan, the way they understand the expression of Eimesai, that Rabbi Yehuda says, you're asking on Rami Bar Chome. Mar Savar Pligi. According to Rami Bar Chome, the Tanakama, Rabbi Yehuda, they're arguing. And therefore, he could say his pshat according to the Tanakama. Omar Savar Loi Pligi. And according to Rabbi Shua ben Levi and Rabbi Yechanan, they're not arguing. The expression of Eimesai is not an argument. It's just coming to explain. So there's a machlokes how we understand the lashon of Eimesai that Rabbi Yehuda says. But now the Gemara asks from a clear brayse, v'loi pligi. Is there no argument over here about this subject, what Mesachek V'Kuvya means? But Vatanya in a brayse, we clearly learned another opinion, which is not like what Rabbi Yehuda said. It says, Ben sheyesh layomnis, a person that's gambling, whether he has another profession, shalayu, not gambling, Ben she'en layomnis, elohu, he has no other profession, it's only gambling, harei puzzle. Either way, the person is going to be puzzle. So you clearly see there's another opinion that argues on Rabbi Yehuda, and l'chayda, that's the Tanakama of our Mishnah. So when Rabbi Yehuda said Eimesai, he's not explaining the Tanakama, he's arguing. As we see in a Brisa, there's another opinion about this. And says the Gemara, Hahi, this Brisa that you just quoted is not the Chachamim, it's not the Tanakama of our Mishnah. Really, Rabbi Yehuda is coming to explain the Tanakama. But that Brisa, that's Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rab Tarfin. That's Rabbi Yehuda that was quoting another opinion, which is Rab Tarfin. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda was explaining the Chachamim, and here in this Brayse, Rabbi Yehuda is explaining Rab Tarfin's opinion. Rab Tarfin holds that asmachte loikanya, and therefore, according to him, the problem with gambling is that it's ka'en gzela. Where do we see that Rab Tarfin is the one that holds that asmachte, when you are gambling, it's like an asmachte and it's loikanya? Because the Tanya, we learned in the Brayse as follows. Rabbi Yehuda oime mishum Rab Tarfin. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav Tarfin, and what this Brayse is talking about is two people are sitting together, and somebody is coming towards them, and one says to his friend, "This person, if the person that's coming towards us, that I know that he's a nazir. If he's a nazir, then I'll be a nazir like him." And the other one says, "The person that's coming towards us, he's not a nazir. And if I'm right that he's not a nazir, then I'll be a nazir." See, they're arguing if the guy coming towards them is a nazir or not. And each one is sort of betting on the fact that he's right, and if I'm right, then he'll be a nazir. So what does Rab Tarfin say about this? None of them are a nazir. Because by a nazir, the lashon that says in the pasuk is kiyafli ish linda ned. The kiyafli means that a person expresses very clearly what it is, not if. And maybe what he says is going to turn out to be true, maybe not. So over here, this is something that a person is saying. This is similar to what we're discussing, the concept of asmachta. When a person says, if so and so happens, or if I don't do my job, then I'll pay you $10,000. He didn't mean it seriously. He was expecting to do the job. Same thing over here. When the person says, if this and this, if I'm right that he's a nazir, then I'll be a nazir. That's not a serious expression of saying that you're going to be a nazir. So therefore, we see here that Rab Tarfin says that this kind of expression, it's not serious, it's like an asmachta, and it's so therefore also regarding gambling, it's loikanya. So therefore, the issue of the gambling is that it's ka'en gzela. Now the Mefarshim add to this, Taisa speaks about this, and that even though over there it's a nazir is sort of a different halacha, it's learned from a pasuk, hafla. But that lashon of hafla in the pasuk, it says yafli, which means you should be mefarish clearly that you want to be a nazir, but it's not clear what the pasuk means. Only if you hold a smachta loy kanya, then you mefarish the lashon of kiyafli, that it will not include such a kind of case. This is not clear enough because a smachta, when you say something that you're not even sure if it's true, like what you're saying, or adarabah, the point here actually is that you're thinking that you're right. So over here in such a case, you don't know what you're saying, so therefore it's not going to be kind. It's a suffix. Okay, so in such a case, misfeka, a person is not goymer makna. The same thing also by asmachta, because he thinks that it'll never come to be, that he won't do his job. Okay, so the Gemara malva beribis. It said in the Mishnah, a person that lends money on interest. Amar Rava, so Rava said, loive beribis pasaleidas. A person that borrows the money, not only the lender, the borrower, he's also pasal eidus, because the iser is not only for the lender. You're not allowed to borrow money on interest either. So we see that this is a person that was over on the lav, and so therefore he's going to be a rasha and he's going to be pasal eidus. We say that he needs money, and therefore he's ready even to do a iser and to pay interest for this. In fact, the Gemara, but what did it say in our Mishnah? Malva beribis. Malva means only the one that lends on ribis. And says the Gemara, that's not how you read the Mishnah. You're supposed to read it milva haba beribis, a loan that comes with interest, and that's whether you're the lender, whether you're the borrower. Either way, these are both people that we see that they have, like the Lashon Rashi uses, is they have a chimud mammon. They have they're looking for money even when there's an iser. They'll take the money both by the lender and by the borrower. So they'll both be a apostle eidos, apostle for a dain. So the Gemara brings a story in connection to this. Bar Benitus, individual by the name of Bar Benitus, Asidu Beit Trei Sadi, 2 witnesses testified about him being apostle. Chadama, one of the witnesses said, Kamei didi oisev biribisa. In front of me, I saw that he lent money for interest. And the other witness said, I was actually the borrower. To me, he lent the money for ribis. So pasle Rava bar benitis. So based on these 2 witnesses, Rava pasal bar benitis. Now the Gemara asks on this, how could Rava pasal? Based on what he just said, Rava himself said, if you're the one that borrows with interest, pasal eidus, you yourself are pasal eidus. And if so, Rasha, you pasal eidus and you're a Rasha, you can't be a 8. So over here in this case, one aid said that I saw him lending with ribis, but the other aid, he was the borrower, so he himself is a rasha. So the second aid here that wants to pasal bar benitis can't testify to pasal if he himself was the borrower. He's also a rasha himself. So how could he pasal this bar benitis from being a kosher aid? Answers the Gemara, Rav lo taimei. The reason why Rava did accept the second aid as well is because Rava is following his opinion that we learned earlier in the Masechta. Rava said, Adam karev etzalatzmai. A person, he's the closest to himself, he's the closest relative. And therefore a person cannot testify ever about himself. That's even if he's incriminating himself. Karev is pasal eidus. You can't say eidus for karev, whether for the benefit, even whether for the opposite. Doesn't matter. Over here, you're saying eidus about yourself. That eidus, that part of the eidus is not accepted. So what did we learn earlier in the Masechta? Rava says, in a case where a person says an eidus, and a part of his eidus is about someone else, and another part of his eidus is incriminating himself, what we do is palgin and dibura. The part of the eidus that he says about someone else, that's an eidus. The other part that you said about yourself, that's nothing. That we don't accept that at all. It's if you didn't say it at all. So over here, the second aid that says that I was the loiva that he lent ribis to, that part that you said it was you, that part we don't accept at all. You're not believed about that. But the other part that you say that he lent money for ribis, that you believed, and therefore you could be mitzaref him to the other aid to passel this bar benitis. Another story the Gemara brings, and here the Gemara is going to go into different cases regarding what happens. What do we do when a person is pasal eidus? How he could do tshuva to become kosher eidus again? Says the Gemara, Hahu tapche. There was a butcher. That it turned out that he was selling meat that was non-kosher meat. So what do we see over here? That this is a person that for money he'll be machshel other yidden. If Nivel is sitting machshel, he's going to be machshel other yidden to eat non-kosher meat. So pasal Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman pasaled him. Va'avrei. And he took him away from being able to be a judge or being able to be an aid. So Azal, this person went, Rabbi Mazye v'tufre. He allowed his hair to grow long and his nails to grow long, which was a sign that he's sad and that he's doing tshuva. So now Rav Nachman Rav Nachman thought that because he's doing this, so he's doing tshuva, so he wanted to be machshurim again. So Rava said about this, this is not enough of a tshuva. Maybe this that he's expressing this in this way, the tshuva, maybe this is just all a game. He's playing around that we should think that he's doing tshuva in order to be machshurim again. So Elamaita Kante, what is the tshuva? How do we know that it's actually serious? The answer is a person that we suspect that he sold non-kosher meat. He has to go to a place where it's a new city, people don't know him, so he's not just doing it so he should get the recognition of his tshuva, but he's doing it sincerely. And then there, in that place, there has to be something, a lost object that he found that has some significance, something of value that he returns to the right owner. Or that there was a treife that he had that he could have made money on, and he doesn't sell it. So we see clearly that he's doing tshuva for what he did before. That's going to be considered the proper tshuva. Okay, now we'll see that later on the Gemara and the Bryce is going to bring, when we get to the other things that were mentioned in the Mishnah, what's considered to be a proper tshuva, to become kosher leidus again. The Mishnah said the case of mafricha yanim, they make the doves fly. My mafricha yanim. What is this mafricha yanim that you become pasal leidus? So hacha here in Bavel terguma, they translated this to mean that it's a race. If your dove flies quicker than mine, then I'll give you money. But if mine flies quicker than yours, you'll have to give me money. This is basically also gambling, another form of gambling. However, Rab Chama Bareshi said a different pshat, that mafricha yanim means ara. Now, what does ara mean? Ara means that you have doves that you train them to fly out and to get other doves to follow it to come back to your dovecat. So what happens is other people that have doves and birds and pigeons that they own, so you go and you sort of steal from them their birds to come to you. That's what you do. So now, therefore, this person that's doing this with his birds, he's pasal leidus. So now the Gemara explains why each opinion did not want to say like the other. The one that says that it's a race similar to gambling, why didn't he say the pshat of ara? I'll answer you, ara, over there by that case where you're getting your dove to bring other doves from other people's dovecats to yours, over there it's not exela. Over there, the birds, the doves that another person has in his dovecats, he never bought them. He never paid for them. The doves fly around and they stop in a dovecat where a person makes for them a place where they can be over there. And they end up staying there by the person's property in his dovecat. But he never paid for them. They're not really his. So this, you're not allowed to take them away. It's not ksela. It's just darki shalim. They stop by him. You're not supposed to go and grab it away from him because it'll become a big fight. So therefore, according to this opinion, it's not going to passel him for eidus. Now, Mandama Ora, the other opinion that says, the pshat of Ora, that even just this, that because Chachamim instituted Mipnei Darkei Shalom, and you're having your dove bring in from other person's dovecats, so that you will be puzzled. My time Yamar, why didn't he say like the other pshat, that it's racing and it's similar to gambling? Because if that's the pshat, so then it's basically identical to the psul that we just said about gambling. Why is the Mishnah saying both of these cases? Now, but the other opinion will tell you that the Mishnah does have to say both. The Mishnah is saying the case where the person is gambling, and in the case of gambling, it's him. He's the player here, and he's thinking to himself that he's the one that could be good at the gambling and he'll be the winner. That's one case. And also, and then it also has to mention a case of a person that's racing with the birds where it's not really up to him. It's up to the bird how fast it's going to fly. And the Gemara explains that there's a difference here. It's richa and it has to mention both cases. And here the Gemara explains it according to the opinion that we explained before, that by the gambling, what's the issue with the gambling? That it's asmachta, that it's like a person that it's ka'en gzela, because he's not really relying on losing here. Now, if we would only say gambling, where it's you're the player and you're relying on yourself. It's over there where we say that when the person is gambling, he's not really interested in giving up any money here. Why? Because the Amma, he says, I know that I'm a better player, and I'm going to gamble and I'm going to win. So in such a case, it's mamish asmachta. It's something where that if someone takes your money or if you take someone else's money, then it's k'en gzela, because you think you're relying on yourself, that you're a better player. But in the case where it's races with the birds, maybe over there I would say it's up to the bird. So the person going into this understands that he may lose. So therefore over here, when he goes into it, it is a serious commitment that he's going to pay whatever he says he's going to pay in this race. So therefore it's not ken gzela. That's what I would say. But on the other hand, there's another svara. If we would only say the case of the races of the birds, then I would say the Omar ben Naksha Talia Mulsa. How do these races work? You're the one that has the bird, he bangs on something which makes a sound, and that motivates your bird to go quicker. So the person says, I have a better way of how to get my bird to bang and to get my bird to go quicker. I'll bang better. And therefore over there, he's more relying on himself, on what he could do to bang in order to be successful. So he wasn't planning, he wasn't thinking he's going to lose. But in gambling, it's not about banging. Over there, you have to have seichel to be able to win. So maybe over there, the person realizes, maybe I'm not so smart. The Yad Ramah here actually says that the svar of the Gemara is, banging is easier. So in such a case, the person relies on himself that he can bang better. But in gambling, maybe it takes more seichel. So in such a case, I would say that the person is not relying on himself so much. And therefore there, it's not ken gzeile, because he knows he might lose. So therefore the Mishnah has to say both of these cases. Okay, now but the Gemara asks from what it says in the Braisa, many more details here about the cases of the Psulim in the Mishnah, and the Braisa here will also speak about how a person can kasher himself again after he was puzzled. So Meisvei, the Braisa says, Hamasachik bekovi, a person that's gambling. And Eilein Hamasachkin bepispasin. These are people that play with dices. Pispasin is actually pieces of wood, which I get wooden dices. The gambling is not only when they play with the dices that are made specifically for the gambling, even if you're using just peels from nuts or pomegranates, and even though it's being used temporarily, so you're not like a gambler mamish using dices, but even temporarily, it's also going to passel you to be an aid or a dain. Now, how do we know that they are returning, that they're doing tshuva? When they break the dices. And then the Braisa adds, you have to completely do tshuva. Now, what does that mean? So the Gemara says, that means that the person is not going to be gambling, even if without money. Just gambling, playing with the dice to see who could win, who could lose, even without money. He has to completely remove himself from this. Otherwise, the only way to get rid of an addiction, here you see this concept here in the Gemara, is when you totally go completely cold, completely separate, not only from money, even bechinam, not to gamble. Then we know that he's not going to go back to gambling again. Malvi beribis, then it says in the Mishnah, someone that lends money on interest that is possible. That's echad al malva, echad al leva, whether you're the lender or the borrower. And when is it a tshuva for them? When the document here of this loan, they tear the document. And then the Braisa adds again here, that they return, they do tshuva completely. So now, what does this mean? Chazara gemura, what's the Braisa adding here? So the Gemara explains that that even to a guy, they won't lend for interest. Even though to a guy you're allowed to, or it's even a mitzvah, but because this was his addiction, this is an aveda that he did, so he has to separate from this completely. Now, mafriche yainim, this is the case that we're discussing here. The Gemara is going to ask from one of the details that it says here. Mafriche yainim, elu shemamren esayainim. These are the people that induce the doves for what they want, according to both opinions we had before, whether they induce them to fight with one another. But it is the two pshat that we had before. Either they're racing one another, or you induce your doves that you own to go and fight with other doves that are in someone else's property to bring them to you. Now, it's not only regarding doves. This could be by a domesticated animal, chaya, by a wild beast, va'oif, and any other birds. Okay, so the Gemara, we'll see soon, the Gemara is going to focus on the word behemoth, that it brings in over here behemoth. Now over here it says, The what? Horses. Yeah, it could be with horses, a horse race, yeah, all kinds of things like that, exactly. Now, what's the tshuva for this person? Es pigmeyen, when you break those boards of wood that you have, that you bang in it, as I mentioned before, that in the races, so they bang, and v'yachzer ben chazara gemura, and they do tshuva, a complete tshuva. Now here the Gemara adds, what's the Braisa adds, has to be a chazara gemura. So the Gemara explains, what's this chazara gemura that the Braisa is saying? That even in the desert, the person doesn't do this. So now Rashi explains, when it says here in the Gemara, the desert, that even in the desert they don't do this. The Gemara is saying this according to the pshat, that the mafricha yonim means that you use your doves to go and steal and take from the doves that are on another person's property. So in a midbar, where it's not so common to find doves that are owned by someone else, and even there you're very careful that your doves shouldn't go and take from anyone else, so then we know that you're completely doing tshuva. But according to the other pshat that it refers to racing, so the Gemara doesn't repeat again to explain what the Chazara Gemura is, because it's the same like before. Just like by gambling we said that the Chazara Gemura is that you don't gamble not even without money. So over here, according to that pshat, that it's the racing of the birds, which is also a form of gambling, it means that you stop even when it's without any money at all, no more races. Okay, then the last case the Braisa mentions, which the Mishnah spoke about, the Seichrei Shvius, the ones that are doing business with the fruits from Shemitah. So they do business with the produce of Shemitah. Now, when is their tshuva? When it comes the next Shemitah, and they're not going to do business, they leave it to be hefker for anybody to come and take and to eat from it. And Rab Nechemia adds to this, it's not just enough that they leave, that they announce and they say that the produce of their property is hefker by the next Shemitah. They also have to return money. What does this mean? Keitzad? This person says, I gathered from my property 200 zuz worth of produce, and I'm giving it as a gift for poor people. So according to one pshat in the Rishonim, what this means is, what Rab Nechemia is saying is that you're not allowed to do business with the fruits of Shemitah. You have to leave it hefker for everybody. But just like other people can come and take from the fruits of the property, you're allowed to take for yourself also into your house. Until the Zman Abir, until the time when the animals don't have anything to eat in the field, you're allowed to keep in your house. So now, but the tshuva for this person is that he has to take from the fruits that he gathered for himself in his house and put it out in the field and share it and give it to poor people. Then we know that he did full tshuva on this, that the Shemitah before, he was doing business with the produce of Shemitah. Okay, so now going back to what I mentioned before. Ketanimius, when it spoke about the case of Mafriche Yainim, so the Braisa mentioned Behema, that it said that just like there's the Mafriche Yainim, which is with doves, similar would be with a domesticated animal. So now the Gemara says, according to the opinion that says that we're talking about a race between doves. So just like there could be a race with birds, it could be a race with any kinds of animals as well. Therefore the Braisa is saying that the same would apply by an animal. But according to the opinion that says that this is the doves that a person sends out to go and steal and take from the doves of another person's property, a domesticated animal can go and do this. If you send out your domesticated animal to go out into the wild and lure in other behemoths, other wild behemoths to come and join it, they're not going to follow this behemoth. They're going to attack this behemoth. This is a domesticated animal that's going out to try to get in other animals from the wild, and then may even bring animals from private property as well. But this domesticated animal can't do this. So why is the Braisa saying the same applies to an animal? Says the Gemara, yes, but there is a case where it is possible. And what is that? B'shoyer habar, by the wild ox. If a person owns an animal which is wild, it's an ox, it's a big wild ox, there you could send out your wild ox to come and force and bring in other animals to join it, to come to your property. And then you can be stealing from another person as well in that way. Now the Gemara explains that it says in the Braisa the word behemoth, that we're talking about a domesticated animal. Or command what it says there in this Braisa follows the opinion that says the sheir bar min behemohu, that a sheir bar is not a chaya, it's not a wild beast, but it's a domesticated animal. That not, as we learned in the Mishnah, sheir bar, in the Mishnah it says sheir bar min behemohu. A sheir bar, according to the Tanakama, is an animal, and therefore the halacha of chelev will not apply. There's halachas of difference between the halacha of chelev by a behemoth and chaya. So he says that it's a behemoth. Rabbi Yosi says min chaya. That note that it's a wild beast. So this Braisa it could be going according to the opinion that it's a behemoth, and therefore you could still say that it refers to ora, the pshat that we said before. Okay, the Gemara continues regarding the psulim of Eidos, Tana and Abraisa. We learned Asifa Leyen. Later on, they added additional people that apostle Eidos, and that is Hagazlanim v'Chamsanim. Those that are stealing and those that extort money, meaning that they pay for what they are buying, but against the will of the seller. He's not interested in selling, and they force him to, and they pay him, but they force him. In fact, the Gemara, this is what they added later. Gazlan deiraisu. Gazlan is pasal minatayra. That's the original psul of al tashas rasha eid, that he's a Gazlan and he's a rasha. That's the Gemara in Nitzracha. The Chiddush over here that they added this psul later on is a different case. When something was owned by a chereshoyte v'kotten, and that he found this, and that's how he owns it. So in such a case, the cheresh v'katan v'natayra does not have any acquisition, does not have any possibility to own this. So me'ekara savor, in the beginning they thought, mitzias cheresh v'katan lo shchicha. So first of all, the fact that there should be a case of a cheresh v'katan that owns something when he found it, it's not something that's so common. So therefore they weren't geyser regarding such a case that the person that takes from them should be postel eidus. Or it's just darki shalom ba'alma, and therefore in such a case, when you take from them, it's not real gzela, and therefore they did not passel this. But kivin the chasus saif the memaynuhu the kashakli. But in the end, they saw that this is a person that's taking money, meaning he has a chimud for money that he's going to go and take and steal because of his desire for money. Paslin rabbanan. So the rabbanan passel this person as well. He can't be trusted as a aid or a judge. HaChamsanin, so one asked regarding Chamsanin, so why did they passel the Chamsanin later on? In the beginning they held, Damikayov. He's paying for this. True, he's extorting, he's forcing, but he is paying for this. So this is something that could happen when a person sees something that he really wants and he forces a person to sell it to him, but he's not someone that's always going to go and take someone else's money. He's going to pay. But then, given the chazal the kachatfu gazir b'rabbanan, Chachamim saw that they just grab away from other people and then they throw money. Afterwards, they just give money to this person, and the person doesn't want the money. So this is mamish similar to gzeila. So therefore, the Chachamim said that such a person is pasal eidus as well. Tana and another brayse we learned oida sifal, and they added additionally also harayin, the shepherds, that they go with their animals and they allow them to graze on other people's properties. Hagaboyin, tax collectors, v'hamoichsim, which are also tax collectors. In Mefarshim it says the gaboyin are the tax collectors that are hired by the government and they're just collecting the tax for the government. Moichsim are people that collect tax. They pay the government a certain set amount of money, and then the tax that they collect, they keep for themselves. So these are also people that collect beyond what they're supposed to, and therefore they're stealing. So now the Gemara explains, Royim, when it comes to shepherds, why was this only something that they passled later on? In the beginning the Chachamim held, Akroi Ba'almuhu, that the fact that animals could graze on someone else's private property, it could happen, the animal could go off and you don't realize. But then Kivin the Chazal the Kamachavni, Vishadu Lechatchila, then they saw that the shepherds are Lechatchila taking their animals to a private property, so Gazrabu Rabbanan. So the Rabbanan were geyser that they should be passeladus. Hagaboim v'amoichsen, these tax collectors, so Meikara Savor, in the beginning, Chachamim thought, Maide Kitzlu hu kashakli. The amount of the tax, which is set that they're supposed to collect, that's what they're taking. They're not taking anything extra. But given the chazal the kashakli, you say that when they saw that the tax collectors are taking advantage and they collect extra tax, so they passled them. So Omar Rava said about the shepherd, there's two different kinds of shepherds. There's Roya Shamru, when it says that the shepherd is pasal eidos, that's Echad Roya Bein Medaka, whether this is a shepherd of small livestock like sheep, or Echad Roya Bein Megasa, or large livestock like cows and so on. So the Gemara asks in this, did Rava say that in both cases you'll be pasal eidos? But for Omar Rava, there's another statement that Rava himself said, if it's a shepherd of small livestock, so if you're in Eretz Yisrael, psulin, then you become pasal eidos, because in Eretz Yisrael they were more machmer, because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, that you should be careful not to allow your animals to graze in private property. But if it's a chutz la'aretz, even with small livestock, kshedim, you're still going to be kosher. Now, Roya Be'em Megasa, person that's a shepherd of large livestock, afilu Eretz Yisrael, even in Eretz Yisrael, kshedim, you're still going to be kosher. So you clearly see that Rava says that with large livestock, a Roya, a shepherd, is still kosher leidos. And says the Gemara, Hahu, that statement of Rava was not talking about a shepherd. What it's talking about is b'megadlam, that is a person that he owns these large livestock and he has them in his house. Megadlam itma. And so therefore, a person that's not a shepherd, what's the difference between a person that owns or a person that's a shepherd? A person that owns them in his private property, so they're usually by him. They're usually in his private property. There's not such a big concern that they're going out, that they're running out to other properties. So therefore we say only by small livestock, there's still a concern, even though he's raising them in his own private property, that they may slip away and go into someone else's property, and you may allow them to go. But large livestock, they don't slip away so fast. But when it comes to a shepherd, by a shepherd that's going outside with his animals, whether it's large livestock, small livestock, the shepherd goes all over the place and he ends up going into other people's properties, so he's always going to be puzzled. Says the Gemara, it's logical to say this because Mediktani we had before in the Mishnah it said regarding the judges, or actually here the Gemara first thinks that it's not lavdaf given negate to judges, it's been negate to Edus as well. The Mishnah there says, Nemanan alai shloisha roya bakar. Person says in a din Torah to the other Baldin, I trust even 3 shepherds of Roye Bakar. So the Roye Bakar refers to large livestock. I believe them that to be accepted. Now, my love, Le'edus. He's saying that I will be ready to accept a Roye Bakar even for Edus. And so what do we see from here? That the Mishnah is saying that usually a shepherd, even of large livestock, will be possible, like Rava originally said it, and that's what we see here from this Mishnah. It says the Gemara Eloi. That Mishnah is not talking about Eidos, Lidina. It's talking about to be a judge. To be a judge will more machmer. Maybe over there the Mishnah is saying that this shepherd of large livestock will be possible, but lav dafka for Eidos. The Kanami, and the proof that the Mishnah is not talking about Eidos, but it's talking about a judge, Diktani Shloisha Rei Baka, that he's accepting 3. V'ile Eidos, if we're talking about Eidos, Shloisha Lamali, for Eidos you don't need 3, Eidos is usually 2. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Ve'elamai Lidina, so he's saying that it's talking about a judge, so my area Shloisha Rei Bakar, so then why is it mentioning that you're accepting 3 shepherds to be a judge? Kolbet Lasad Legamri Dina Nami. It's not dafka a shepherd. The point here is that the Baldin says, I'm ready to accept a judge, even somebody that doesn't know halachas of Torah. So that's dafka a shepherd. It could be any other person that doesn't know the halachas as well. So why is the Mishnah using dafka the example of the Reye Bakar? It answers the Gemara Hachi Kamar. The reason he chooses this example is for this reason, that even these people that are so, they don't know anything, they don't even live amongst people in a city, they go out there, even such a person I accept a judge upon. That's the chiddush of that case. Okay, let's just finish off with one more shtickle here. The Gemara says, to connect it to before. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda, first the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda said, Stam Roye, when you have stam, a person that's a shepherd, puzzle, even without knowing exactly what his status is, if he goes into other people's property, he'll be puzzle. Stam gabai, but a stam tax collector, kosher. Until we don't know that he's collecting extra tax, we'll assume that he's kosher. Like the Gemara brings a story about a very honest and actually a tax collector that was a tzaddik. Avur de Rab Zera, the father of Rab Zera, Ovid Gav Yusuf Shnin. He was a tax collector for 13 years. Now, he was always very kind to the people in the city, and especially Talmidei Chacham, he didn't collect taxes from them. And therefore, when the head of the river, meaning the head of the city, the mayor of the city, would visit the town, so when he saw the Talmidei Chachamim, so Amalam, he said to them, he used the lashon of the pasuk, go hide in your rooms, that the mayor, that is, should not see all the people living in the city. So he shouldn't ask me, hey, where I see so many people there, where's the taxes from all these people? So he told them to go hide. He saw other people of the city, so he didn't want to say it straight out to them because he was afraid that they may say over what he's telling them. So Amar, he said, Reish Nara, the mayor of the city is here, and now he's going to slaughter a father in front of the son and a son in front of the father. This is an expression saying that he's going to collect now a lot of taxes, so if you want to avoid this, so scatter, go hide. And everybody would hide. Ki asi, and then when the mayor of the city actually came, Amalei, he would say to him, Mimani bai, from who should I collect taxes? Look how little people there are here, because everybody went and hid. So this was the father of Rab Zera. He was a tax collector, but not only he was honest, he did his job in a way that he collected as little taxes as possible. Kinicha nafshe, even more, when he passed away, Amalei, he said, before he passed away, Shkulu tleisa moi, take 13 ma, which is tied in a handkerchief, and return it to so and so. I collected it from him as a tax, and in the end I didn't need it. And the story, as the Rishonim say, was that in the beginning it was demanded from him that why didn't you collect tax from that person? But in the end it turned out that he didn't need it, that they didn't request it from him, and now he was so honest and he said, give that back to that person.